Hello again, I am Blunty. Now, Alienware, believe it or not, is 20 years old this year, which kind of blew my mind when I first noticed it. The most recent Alienware product I have reviewed was their 15-inch laptop, which I was quite impressed by. The next one I'll be reviewing, just by the way, is this behemoth right here, the 17-inch version of that laptop. And I haven't even turned it on yet. I've literally just whipped it out of the box to do this bit with, because I've been too busy. But today, I have to plug it in and install a bunch of games and then start the process of reviewing. But at PAX Australia this weekend just gone, I got to sit down. Well, actually, no, I didn't sit down. I stood up. I stood next to a couple of bigwigs from Alienware. Joe and Frank, as they call. I don't call them Joe and Frank. It's Joe Olmstead, who is the product manager, and Frank Azor, and I'll have to read this so I get his entire title right because it's a long one, Vice President and General Manager, Alienware and Dell XPS. So, yeah, kind of important guys when it comes to Alienware stuff. And we had a little chat about Alienware being 20 years old and what that means for Alienware, what's coming next, what's come before. These guys have been with the company for, I think, both of them, pretty much the entirety of the span. How they feel about where Alienware has been and where it's going and all that sort of stuff. It's kind of interesting if you ask me, so let's watch. That was a dumb way to introduce an interview. Here it is. Let's watch.
Hello again, I am Blunty, standing here, feeling unusually short, with Frank from Alienware. So Alienware this year, 20 years old, if you can believe it. And you've been there pretty much from the absolute beginning, right?
Yeah, pretty much. First
question I want to ask, I've always been curious about this. What was the transition like when Dell came in?
Well, it was scary. There were a couple options for us as regards to who we would be willing to sell the company to, or if we were going to go public. And Dell was a company that we admired a lot because of their efficiency, their operations, their supply chain. So they were one of the companies that we knew that if we partnered with them, they could do some pretty great things for Alienware, as long as Alienware was able to keep what made it really special, which was our focus on innovation, our focus on technology, and on the gamer themselves. Right. So, they were very smart in recognizing that what we had was very special. And because of that, they did everything they could to ensure that we would preserve the things that made Alienware very special, while at the same time helping us grow and expand to as big as we are today. So it was a scary time. There's not a lot of companies, especially as small as we were back then, that are acquired by such a massive corporation like Dell that are able to survive, much less thrive like we have.
I remember back in the day, and I hate using that phrase, when that purchase was made, there were a lot of Alienware fans who were terrified that Dell was just going to strip it out and leave it by the wayside. But the exact opposite happened. Alienware is way stronger now than it ever could have been, I think.
Yeah, and it wasn't luck or anything like that. I mean, the acquisition really came from Michael Dell himself and his vice chairman, Jeff Clark. I mean, they were the ones that recognized that Alienware was unique in that it's not something you can build yourself overnight. That we had spent a decade building it by the time they were expressing interest in acquiring it. So when it came to integrating with Dell, they knew what made Alienware special because that's what they bought. So, and they themselves were gamers, and they themselves are gamers. So they got it. And not a lot of times does the acquirer get really the acquiree. So we were in a very fortunate position that at the highest levels, we had the kind of support that we did. And it's a big reason as to why we're still successful today.
Now, you these days oversee not only Alienware, but the Dell XPS side of the business
I have all the cool products, yeah.
How do you feel where the divide between those two brands are?
Well, they're both premium product lines. XPS is focused on premium, mainstream kind of products, right? So we build beautiful thin and light notebooks that are aluminum, carbon fiber, they're high performance, and then we have our desktop products as well and our all-in-one. But our primary focus on XPS is not the gamer. It's really just building the most badass notebook and desktops we possibly can. But their gaming capabilities are like a feature of the products. It's not their design principle. It's not the focus of the product. On Alienware, it's also a very premium focus, but we don't compromise the gaming experience at all. That is our number one focus, is performance and quality for the gamer. So the decisions we make are very, very different. That's why we have larger notebooks. It's why they weigh more. Maybe the battery life isn't as high, because we're not going to compromise on any facet of the gaming experience in exchange for anything else. So it's a very, very different design approach. There's very little to any similarities really, except the premium focus, that whatever we're going to do in both product lines is going to be the absolute best, and cost is spared. I mean, it's never spared. I mean, there's no expense spared when it comes to what it is that we're doing, which is pretty nice to be able to do. I mean, we don't have to make cost-sensitive decisions. We just focus on the customer and the principles of each brand, and then wherever the costs lie, they lie, and then we figure it out from there.
One of the things I note about the Alienware stuff is a fairly consistent design line throughout the entire 20-year history. And Alienware from 15 years ago is recognisable as Alienware as the brand new stuff is. Is that something that has been a very deliberate choice, or is that a natural flow, or is that something you feel like is strong in the branding?
Yeah, our design is critical. In 2002, we launched the Predator chassis, which was our first self-designed case, and it's one of the most disruptive designs ever introduced into a PC. Design was not an element of PCs outside of Apple at the time. We were really the first PC company to come in and take a 360-degree design and apply it to a PC product, a desktop case. That really propelled the company forward, and that has set the look of Alienware ever since. And really, when you look at what's going to differentiate all the gaming products that are out there, it's not going to be what CPU you put in there, it's not going to be what GPU you put in there. Those are commodities that anybody can get. It's going to be the design elements that you put and how they appeal to the customer that you're targeting, and then all the other features that enrich the experience around it, and then the level of quality that you put. Those are the key differentiators. That's what differentiates Alienware. That's what our primary focus has been. So when you look at our ID, our industrial design, there's an incredible amount of work and thought that goes into that. We have a full team of people in Austin that spent over 3 years coming up with the ID language before we introduce it. So when you'll notice from us, we're not flip-flopping on industrial designs every year or every 2 years. We get very careful around the language, the ID language that we're going to implement, and we have a very long-term roadmap around it. Now, we'll make tweaks and revisions here depending on what product we're introducing, but the language of the family stays consistent for 4 to 5 at a time.
Anytime I review a desktop computer, off the shelf in Alienware, like I reviewed the Aura a couple of weeks ago, or anytime I review a laptop, there's always people in the comments saying, well, why don't you build your own for so and so many dollars less or something? And I keep trying to explain to people, not everybody wants to build their own machines. So how do you approach, as far as what a desktop unit is off the shelf versus how much customizability you give on the website? Because if you give, say, too much choice, you risk confusing the customer.
Yep.
So how's that balance struck?
So we're not here to build a product better than any one person can build it themselves. We're not competing against the DIY customer. You will always be able to build your computer better than anybody out there is going to be able to build it. And if you have the time, the patience, and the tolerance to do that, more power to you. If we can help you in any way, we'd love to actually be able to help you. What we're here to do is when that time is no longer there, when that tolerance for technical support issues is no longer there, and you really want to just focus on the game and enjoying your game, that's where we come in. We'll build you a product that is not as good as what you'd build yourself, but it's pretty close, and it's going to have phenomenal tech support, and it's going to have great quality, and it's going to be something that's going to be reliable for a really long time. You don't have to worry about compatibility issues between certain components. You don't have to worry about latency issues that may be introduced. All those things are tested for you, right? All those things are guaranteed to work and to deliver a phenomenal experience. There's no trial and error on your part. So that's what our value proposition is. And when it comes to selection and customization, you're absolutely right. We could always offer more, and we are tempted always to offer more, and we used to offer everything we could ever think of, but confusion is the biggest issue. We get a lot of phone calls, and people are like, I'm so lost, I have no idea what to get. We had back then we had the equivalent of 1070 from 3 different manufacturers, and some were superclocked, and some were overclocked, and some were ultraclocked. People are like, what the hell is the difference between all this stuff? And then we go in and it's not a valuable conversation. It's like a 3 megahertz difference in the clock speed, and it's not going to make a big impact to your gaming experience. So we've simplified a lot over time because we want more people playing games, PC games. We want more people to come into the fold. And the easier we make the purchase for them, especially us who are trying to simplify the entire experience for you, that's why you come to us, is because you don't want to build it yourself. You don't want to deal with all that complexity. The simpler we make it, the more people we're bringing into PC gaming, and the easier we're making it for them to come into the hobby.
Well, thank you very much for chatting with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm still gobsmacked. It's been 20 friggin' years of Alienware.
Yeah. It dates us both a little bit, but that's okay. It's been a great 20 years.
20 years of Alienware, and half of that has been with Dell?
10 years exactly, yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hello again, I am Blunty, still in the Alienware booth. This time, Mr. Joel Olmstead joins me. Spoke to him a couple of years ago at this very event about Alienware stuff, but this year's special, 20 years.
20 years.
20 years. How much of that has been you?
I've been part for 13 years.
13 years.
So my team leads the overall project that we offer. So 2.5 years ago, we started the products that we have today. And I have marketing guys who come up with the market, the size, what the price points need to be. We have ID, truly, innovative, forward thinkers when it comes to design. I've got an engineering team that focuses on how to make all that work. And so we lead that team, that large collaborative team that really puts the products from a PowerPoint slide. I would say the drawing board, but no one uses pens anymore. But from a PowerPoint slide to the market.
So what has been the biggest step forward in your 13 years? What's happened to the ID, the product design, the philosophy of Alienware?
When I look back and think about, we were excited 13 years ago that we could put a graphics chip in a notebook. Right? I mean, it was a portable graphics card. It was amazing. And that's one. And now notebooks are VR capable. And I was mentioning this earlier. I was at the show last year here. And not during any of the interviews. I was spending my nights on phone calls trying to get VR ready to launch in January on our big desktop. 10 months later, I'm here launching it on our 13-inch notebook.
Yeah.
So
we're not just talking about getting a graphics card in a notebook anymore.
Right.
It's a desktop quality graphics card.
It's a desktop graphics card in a notebook. Right. And so I think about that, and I think about the very first product I had to bring to market at Alienware was actually a system based on Windows Media Center. And it was the size of an Onkyo receiver, and it had an SD cable tuner in it. And that was the product. It took about 9 months to bring to market, and we brought it. It's called the DHS. We won some awards, and we were featured at a Microsoft keynote. It was a really big deal. But 2 years ago, we launched Alpha, and it was everything that other box wanted to be, but it worked. And now I have them all over my house.
When the Alphas came out, I decided to try and build my own of equivalent specs.
Good luck.
See if I can get sort of the same performance, same price. I couldn't get close.
Yeah.
I have no idea how you people managed it, but it was bewildering. And now we've got the revision 2 Alphas, which I have looked at a little while back on the review as well. How? How?
Well, I tell you, so we started this company, well, I didn't, but the company started 20 years ago as a gaming company. It was designed to bring PC gaming to someone who, instead of trying to figure it out. Dell bought us 10 years ago, and the headlines were Dell's going to crush Alienware, and it's going to ruin them. We're still the same two guys that were making our systems then, and Dell at the same time said, look, we do a lot of things well, and you're going to continue doing what we're doing, and we're going to help you do that. So without the incredible thermal engineers that I have, the electrical engineers that are all part of Dell, we're part of Dell then, we could never have done Alpha. They came up with things that, frankly, we couldn't have ever existed. So, in a true partnership, we were a gaming company that got bought by a big PC company, but we never changed.
What are you looking forward to next? Now that we're hitting that desktop quality graphics in laptops, VR is just basically starting to hockey stick. You've got PlayStation out there making VR a proper household name. What comes next?
Well, when I sit and think about what's going to happen with VR, right now you've got two camps, right? You got Oculus, you got HTC. Movies aren't there. The rest of the entertainment world isn't there. In the next year, the next 2 years, you're going to see the rest of the entertainment content come in. And then it's going to be the different types of headsets. So like a Google Glass headset, right? Very different experience than an Oculus. and a Sony headset, very different than other headsets, right? So we're trying to figure out on the content side, because we have a lot of connections into, with content developers, where we need to be from a product perspective that's tailored to the experience that you want. And so, we showed at E3 a backpack, and that's meant for doing free roam VR. Well, right now you can't game in free roam VR unless you're a zero latency or the Void, and there's a whole infrastructure to put you where you're at. But in a few years, there'll be better tracking, and maybe you can just walk around in an open area. So to me, we're trying to get ahead of where the content's going to be to make certain our form factors follow.
Right, well, thank you very much for talking with me. It's always a pleasure to speak to you.
Hey, it was good seeing you again, too.
I can't wait to see what happens next year at PAX.
Well,
He's been teasing me. Something's coming. Something's on the horizon.